And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. This is Get a Grip with Coach Helix, and I am your host, Coach Helix. And with me, I have the absolutely fabulous
Stephen the Medium is here.
Stephen the Medium is here, and the also fabulous at the studio is, that would be Mark.
Hi, that's me.
So as
Hello.
you can, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have an amazing show. As you can see, I'm really excited because it's been 2 weeks since we had our last live show, and what's been going on since then is Stephen and I went to Puerto Rico. We celebrated my birthday, October 7th. I've been celebrating my birthday ever since. But it was an amazing time in Puerto Rico. I was so blessed to have Stephen with me. And of course, as always, he goes out of the way to make me feel special. And I also had such a privilege to spend dinner, birthday dinner with my aunts, my mom. And that was just really awesome. They gave me, so it's awesome to have them, not all of them. Oops, what is that? I don't know what's going on. But anyways, Mark, we can hear the dial tone. Stephen, can you hear that?
I sure can.
So I don't know what's going on, Mark, but we can hear the... I don't know what's going on with the producer, Mark.
Maybe he's drinking.
If you can hear me, we can hear the phone ringing.
And the number you have reached is disconnected.
It's not in service.
Mark?
So I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear this?
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
No, can you hear that we can hear the dial tone and you calling?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yeah, that's on air.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So I don't know what's going on, but anyways, nevertheless, that was a very rude interruption, Mark, as I'm talking about my birthday. But anyways, I was talking about one of the most awesome things that happened is I got to have dinner with my aunts. Not all of them, because there were a few missing, even though all of them were there because we talked about all of them. But one of the most beautiful things that I got was this beautiful birthday card that they all got to sign. And I really do believe that I'm going to hold this forever and ever. Stephen, wasn't that like amazing?
Yes. I mean, the fact that they all scrambled with their schedules to be there and
I don't know what's going on with him today.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but we're going to... So, Mark, I don't know what's going on.
Mark.
Is he drinking today?
I don't know. Mark.
So, Mark. We can hear you, Mark.
Mark,
we can hear you.
Hear the whole conversation with Kathy.
So, are you drinking today?
She's on hold.
No, we could hear you. Talk to her.
So you were not on. You were on air with us. So, anyways, once again, we are rudely interrupted. It's like Mark doesn't want me to talk about my birthday today.
That's it.
But anyways,
He's jealous.
I got this beautiful card with all of them they all got to sign. My cousin Eva was there as well, and I really do believe this is one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever gotten. And they also gave us a beautiful crystal base. So anyway, that when you do live radio, by the way, this is what happens. You just have to dance with what you get, with the ups and the downs and the breakdowns, because it's live radio. It's not edited. It's not a podcast that we get to edit. So if you're listening live and you're listening to this hot mess at the moment, this is what this is what happens when you're on air live. So Stephen,
when your producer just starts drinking Bloody Marys at
in the middle of a show. So I don't know, Jim, if you're listening, you better go on standby and see if you can save the show. Anyways, Stephen, tell us what's up with you.
Well, a little of this, a little of that. Things are going very, very well with my end with doing readings and stuff behind the scenes, and just a lot of stuff in the works and backstage that hopefully I'll be able to share very soon. I actually just spoke to the director slash producer of the documentary I was part of in April, and it's very exciting that it looks like it is possibly going to be released in November. So he is closing everything up November 1st, and his editors, I think they're ready to go. So I'll have to give more information on exactly where this documentary is going to begin and where it's going to be aired and all of that amazing, great stuff. I'm so excited about it.
And if you're listening for the first time, Steven the Medium, he's my husband, first and foremost. So sorry, he's taken. You cannot have him because he's absolutely gorgeous and smart. But he's an attorney by day and a medium. Well, not just by night. He's a medium. He's a spiritual medium, and he connects with people who have passed. So,
and by the way, Elix, not to interrupt, but I'm also having an event. How could I forget? October 31st, a virtual event. So no matter where you are in the world, you can actually register to be part of this. It's going to be amazing. October 31st, Halloween night, 7 to 9. I will be doing readings. I will be doing notes, and we are going to have a fantastic time. So go to my website, stephenthemedium.com/Halloween to get tickets.
And no matter where you are, you can be part of this, this event because it's a virtual event and you're doing something really unique. You're actually creating smaller groups so that everyone has a very intimate experience with you. So you don't want to miss this. And, and I forgot, by the way, one of the reasons, aside from, of course, for being in Puerto Rico, one of the reasons why we could not do the show last week, it's because I also ended up in the hospital, in the ER, because I was bit by a tick. And Stephen or I could not really get it fully out. So I had to go to the ER. And they helped me get it out, and they also gave me antibiotics. So thankfully, I know I got it out on time, so the doctor says, because I guess it's supposed to be within 36 hours to avoid disease, like Lyme disease. But, I got to be on standby and on the lookout for the next couple of weeks. But 1, 2, 3, I think I am doing good. And
you're good.
Nurse Betty, Stephen, was frantic trying to get this live tick out of my body, and it was pretty I'm not gonna say it was fun because I was freaked out myself, but it was just it was interesting to say the least. We live near a cranberry bog, and Steven's nephew was visiting with his fiance, and they've never been to the Cape, so that we wanted to take them to the cranberry bog. And of course, I'm the only one walking around in shorts, and that's what I get. One of the ticks loved me, and it got attached to me. So, but that's like you, Steven. You're just attached. I can't get rid of you either. You're like a tick.
Is that what you're calling it these days? I
don't know what's happening to me. I think Mark and his discombobulation today has me all discombobulated right now.
Maybe it wore off on you. I know.
But listen, again, if you're listening and you caught everything, this is a live show, so what you see is what you get. We don't edit. Of course, the podcast gets edited, but this is live, so, you get all the bloopers in real time. So anyways, today, Steven, you missed this amazing woman, a friend, somebody that I love dearly the last time because you were traveling. I don't even remember what you were doing, but you weren't doing the show.
No, I don't remember either. I think, actually, you know what? I do think I was doing a group reading.
Oh, well, that could be it.
Yeah, I was doing a group reading down the beach or something, I think.
Yeah, so she hosted the show. She was a guest, and she sort of co-hosted the show with me. And she's absolutely fabulous. Kathy Gallus is back. Last time we had a wonderful conversation about grace. Today we're talking about grief, grace, and grit. And Kathy has been so gracious to accept the invitation to come back. For those of you who are listening perhaps to the first time, first of all, I recommend that you go back to the July podcast so that you can listen to that first interview with Kathy. It was absolutely marvelous. But Kathy is an entrepreneur. She's a marketing guru, a digital strategist, and the founder of Purple Essence. And she specializes in helping musicians and artists. She's also a mom of two. She's a coach. She's a practicing yogi, a tap dancer. Which, by the way, it's a fun conversation to have with her because this was her childhood dream, and she took it, as she was older, and that's one of the things she loves doing. And she, of course, perhaps most importantly, is a lifelong friend, somebody that I've known for, I think, Stephen, almost like Miss Kay. I think Kathy and Miss Kay were part of the same group of people that I coach back in the year 2000 in the Landmark Education's Introduction Leader Program. So we're talking 20 years ago, a long time ago.
Wow.
So it's such it's such an amazing opportunity to have her back. Now, back then, in July when Kathy was here for the first time, Stephen, we talked about the episode was her story of tenacity and grace. And, back then, her mom, Maddie, was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. I believe she was diagnosed in October of 2020. So, Kathy, sort of, we talked about grace, but we talked about grace in the context of, how does she bring grace to dealing with that very sudden disruption in her life with her diagnosis, her mom being recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. So today, Kathy is back. We, sadly, her mom has passed recently. So one of the things that Kathy shared with me when I heard that her mom had passed and I reached out, she shared with me about how much being on the radio with me had provided for her and uplifted her spirit and really helped her manage and deal through what she was dealing with. So I thought, hey, if we did that then, we could do it again. And this time, I will do anything I can to help you cope through, with the grief of losing your mom. So we're going to talk about grief. We're going to talk about grace, and we're going to talk about grit. And all of that Kathy possesses in abundance. So I want you to tune in. I want you to stay tuned. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Kathy Gallus. We'll be right back.
Are we on?
Stephen. And hello and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I hope we're on, but I cannot tell you whether we are because our producer Mark appears to be having multiple technical difficulties today, and we are definitely having all kinds of bloopers happening in real life. As I said before, it is our live radio show, so all kinds of things are happening. But welcome back, and I have an incredible woman, somebody that I admire, somebody that I consider a friend, somebody that I absolutely love and adore, and I am so honored that, given the circumstances that she's going through, the loss of her mom, she is here with us today. Talk about grief, grace, and grit. Kathy, are you here?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Bless the Lord, Kathy. Kathy, our producer has been drinking a lot. I don't know what, when he started drinking, what is it that he's drinking today, Stephen?
Bloody Marys.
Bloody Marys. But clearly he is a Bloody Mary hot mess today. But the good thing is we have you here. Kathy, thank you for accepting the invitation to join us here today. Kathy, last time, first and foremost, I want to just tell you I am deeply, deeply sorry for the loss of your mom. And, Stephen and I are with you. We hold you in our heart, and we are sending you lots of white healing light to help you through the grieving process.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I have to say happy birthday. I didn't realize that today's your birthday, and it's like I'm so honored to be on your birthday show. That's extraordinary. Thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it.
Kathy, my birthday was October 7th, but I couldn't do the show live because we were in Puerto Rico. So I'm celebrating my birthday the whole month. And this is, even though it's not my birthday, it really is my first birthday show. So again, thank you. Just clarifying. But,
that's great. That's
but
awesome.
for anyone.
I do a birthday month too.
Absolutely. And for anyone who wants to send presents my way, you're welcome. Absolutely. Send them my way. The whole month of October is game for me. Stephen, any comments? Because I'm sure you're racing, you're rolling your eyes.
No, I'm just listening.
But Kathy, last time you defined grace. We talked about grace, and you defined it as poise, elegance, forgiveness, or a blessing. You also said that is to do honor or credit to someone or something by one's present. And it was about this is you quoting, I'm quoting you. It's about acceptance of what's so and forgiveness of others and yourself. And Kathy, I read that as a reminder of our previous conversation, and I want to know, Kathy, how has that helped you cope with the recent loss of your mom?
Well, to be honest, it's been a whirlwind of stuff, and I think grace has really needed to come in. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of your listeners have dealt with estates, and I don't know if either of you have. My father passed 7 years ago, so I gone through, dealing with an estate. But with my mom, there's been some surprises, and not good ones. And I've really had to step back and give my mom grace because I really had to get to the point of saying, you know what, I don't really know anyone. I think that, we all have our avatars or whatever we put out there, and we do our best. But the bottom line is that, we still have hidden things. We still have traumas we're dealing with. We still have things that we may be afraid to talk about. And with a few things that I found that my mom did not tell me before she passed that would have been very important to tell me, I really had to sit back and say, okay, where can I give grace and compassion? And really try to sit back and try to understand my mom and where she was coming from and choices that she made. And, to be honest, some information I found out, I was livid for about 24 hours. And then I talked to, a couple of my very trusted folks in my life, my husband and my therapist. And I really started to sit back and say, okay, this anger is doing nothing. Where can I bring compassion, understanding, grace to this situation? And I actually was able to get a lot of freedom because I really could sit back and say, you know what, I'm not in control of any of this. The universe is in control, God, whatever you want to call it. And these are my lessons. And so when I was able to really release that anger and sit back and, give everyone freedom, including my mom who had passed, I really was able to say, okay, there's more lessons here to learn, and I'm fine with that. I'm going to be a lifelong transformational learner until my last breath. So I have no problem with any of that. And to be honest, it gave me peace because if I can accept someone that my mom and I didn't have the closest relationship. It was, actually we got closer when she got sick. But it really just has allowed me to give grace to others who are here because I really can sit back and say, you know what, I don't know why people are saying or doing things, and it's not my role to judge or, to really figure out like what the right answer is. It just really is about sitting back and just letting people be who they are.
Wow, Kathy, that's so insightful because, I often tell people that when we hold that anger, when we hold that resentment, it doesn't hurt anyone but ourselves, most of all. And I think for you to have that such a high level of mindfulness, because that's what this is about. You are mindful so that you can make that correction in real time, so that you could choose, because again, we all have the choice. We could choose to hold on to the anger or not. And for you to say, you know what, how can I give, even though I'm upset, I'm angry, how can I let go of that and give my mom grace? But not just for her, but for you. That's what I'm hearing also, that this is grace for both of you, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. No doubt. I mean, I think that, I think we talked a little bit about this on the last show, but just, it's the give and get. If we give compassion, we generally get it back. We give grace, we get it back. We give our best selves, and sometimes we don't get it back, but, a large percentage of the time we do get it back. And so, I think, for me, it really comes down to, being my best self. And, I do a lot of inner child work too. And I really realized that girl that was mad was not my adult self. That was my 15-year-old. And so, I could go down a road with that, but, the whole thing is that it's just, you're right. It was like all of the training, all of the therapy, the spiritual work, the, transformational work, the insight meditation I've done over the last year allowed me to pop out of that much, much, much quicker than if I didn't. And so, and I'm okay with it, being upset. It's okay. I mean, that's the one thing I've also learned over this time is that we really need to honor all of our emotions because we're just dealing with stuff as they come up, and so anger, and for me, anger is just, that kind of runs on my dad's side of the family, so I've never ran from it. But anytime, a lot of times we're angry or depressed or something, people don't want to be with it because it's so uncomfortable. But the thing is that there's always a lesson inside of that. And as long as we could be as responsible as we can so that when we're angry, we're not, being insanely disrespectful to people that we love or, just all of those things, there's a lesson inside of it. And so I really just allowed myself to sit in the anger, to understand that I could have been 15 at the time, but I'm just going to roll with it. And I kind of gave myself a timeline, and everything kind of worked out. And I was able to, learn something, like I said, from all of that, and give myself that grace and that space to be able to learn.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, when we need to take a break. When we come back, one of the things Stephen and I have talked about this all the time, because even for us, we've learned to recognize that we need to let go of certain things, whether it's anger, resentment, whatever that is. But oftentimes we say to ourselves, but I don't know how to. I know I need to, but I don't know how to. I'm really curious. So when we come back, I want you to sort of guide us through how, in real time, what were some of the practices that you could take on in real time so that you could then let go of whatever you were holding on to. So hold on to that thought, Kathy. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And hello and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I am your host, Coach Helix, with me, my co-host, Stephen the Medium, and my amazing friend and guest, Kathy Gallas, who is talking to us about dealing with grief, grace, and grit in lieu of the recent passing of her mom. Kathy, thank you again for being with us. Last time you talked about, recognizing when you found yourself upset, angry, holding on to resentment, and letting go. And my question to you is, how do you do that?
That is a really, really big question. And I wish I had a simple answer. I think for everybody it's different. And I just have to say that, how I got through, what I'm just kind of saying, the 24 hours, was honestly really due to the intense work that I threw myself into, not only in the last over 25 years of work that I've done, but literally within the last year that my mom got sick, with my therapist and, again, spiritual work and all these other things, that I think, we never really know what works until we have a moment, and then it's like, oh, it's sunk in. So, but, as far as what I kind of realized when I was mad, which this kind of sounds basic, but I actually acknowledged that I was angry. So it's not that I just realized I was mad, but I acknowledged that the anger was actually present. And for me, that's a huge thing, because I can just go, oh, well, I'm mad at this person, or I'm being judgmental, or whatever I'm doing. But this particular thing, because it had to do with my mom, and I was committed to not being angry at her or resentful, but it was something that it hurt. It was like it was a button that got pushed, about lack of communication and respect. And those are really two big things for me. And both of those buttons got pushed at the same time. And so I just really had to acknowledge that I was angry. And then again, through what I was saying before about all my work, I just allowed myself to be angry. And I was lucky that day that, like I know, so many people, you're at work or you're these other things. I had the luxury that I wasn't working that day, and I was dealing with a lot of different things, but I could actually take the time to actually kind of breathe through the anger, if that makes sense. But
yes.
And then I reached out to my husband and explained what was going on, and just kind of rolled with it. And, and my husband's awesome. And, there's sometimes things he says that I don't want to hear. I'm sure you deal with that with Stephen.
Stephen will tell
never Kathy.
Kathy, Stephen will tell you that in a few minutes.
But, it really, what they have to say is the right thing to say. And but in those moments, I just want to say, I just want to deflect it. But I really just sat back and listened. And, there were some little things that I said to my husband, but really I knew he was right, because we have a history of these types of things happening, and he's one of my what I call a grounder. So he's one of my people that I trust, that I know is going to say the right thing. And so after that conversation and me kind of, the energy went down a little bit, I just kind of allowed it to roll through. And then I really, after I kind of settled down a little bit, but was still angry, I was like, how can I recontextualize why I'm feeling angry? And then after a little bit, I was actually able to do that. I was able to actually basically just kind of change the story about what happened, to be honest with you. And because all of this stuff is really about what we make up. I mean, I don't know what the actual reality is, but I'm creating whatever my reality is in my head. And so I was able to switch it and kind of come up with a different narrative. And then I was able to accept that narrative as, okay, I can now have some sort of idea why my mom made the choices she did. I don't have a way to ask her those things in person. So I'm going to come up with this so that I'm not getting myself sick by being angry, because, again, it's only affecting me. And so those were the things that I did within that 24 hours. And then, then that really kind of calmed it down. And then within the next day, I was fine. So, it sounds easy. It wasn't. But a lot of what I did and all of those things that I mentioned was all of the work that I've done, and I just pulled from all of the tools that I have ever learned to try to find an answer, because I just wasn't committed to being angry at her, is really what the bottom line was.
Yeah. Kathy, when I hear you talk, it's like it validates so many of the conversations Stephen and I have all the time. One of the things I hear you saying is it's okay to embrace the hurt. It's okay to embrace the anger. It's okay to embrace the grief. Like oftentimes when you talk about making stories, we make stories. We live in a world that creates stories like, well, you're not supposed to be this way. You're not supposed to feel this. And what I hear you saying that is so powerful is that, says who? That's invented. That's made up. And if you embrace and you give yourself permission to grieve, you give yourself permission to be upset, you give yourself permission to be whatever it is, just don't fuel that narrative, but give yourself permission to be in that space, because that really is what creates that opening that's going to allow us to be freed up. Now, Kathy, you also said something, and I'm going to ask my husband, Stephen the medium, a question, because you talked about, at times there were things that you couldn't ask your mom, right? So you had to come up with other ways. So, Stephen, I'm asking you, for somebody who feels, and many people who have significant losses, they may have things that they're not complete with, and they cannot complete them by having a conversation with the person who passed. What would you say to them? What are some of the things that you would advise them they could do to get that sense of completion for themselves?
Well, before I even answer that, my prayer is that everybody in the entire world would hear what Kathy just explained, because it's so relevant. It's so breakthrough. It's just such a breakthrough. And so many people don't do it. So many people that don't know how to do it, are intimidated by doing it, or just don't want to do it because they're so wrapped up in the anger. So Kathy, listening to it, I got chills listening to you, and I just I just wish everybody heard that.
Thank you.
And also on a side note, I did a little ceremony just a couple of weeks ago. When I was 8 years old, my father committed suicide, and I did a ceremony by myself to go through a wake because I never remembered it. And one of the things I acknowledged was, I'm pissed off. I'm mad at you. And it felt so good. I don't think I could eloquently explain it like you just did. I just knew I felt good. But to answer your question, I would say to anybody that feels like it's too late, my loved ones are crossed, and I found something out, like you mentioned, Kathy, is that I think it's two-pronged. One, I think you've got to be where Kathy is before you even suggest or even want to start having a conversation with your loved ones in spirit, because if you're in that anger, they're not on that frequency, so you can't get to them there, and it's not going to help you. And number one, and I think then once you're there and you've got that resolution, or you've got that forgiveness or grace, I think it's when I would say to someone, you just want to take some time when you're by yourself, take a couple of breaths in, and just close your eyes and picture a room that there's two doors, one that you're coming in on one side, and you ask your mom or dad or grandfather or grandmother, whoever it is, to come in from the other side, through the other door, and sit in this safe harbor, safe haven place, this environment that you're so safe, and it's just filled with love, and have the conversation, and it actually will happen. That's
awesome.
what I would say.
And I've done that in other ways that I could go into, but that absolutely works. But you're right that you have to be on the same frequency. On the other side, there's no anger, there's none of that. So if you're resentful anger, you really, really got to look, because if there's any residual, it's not going to work. You
Yeah.
really have to be in compassion, love, understanding, or not understanding, just being in the unknown of, I just accept you how you are. I love you, and I want to get complete about this, and let's just be together. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that. It totally works.
And that's what I call the frequency of love. There's many frequencies, but the frequency of love is what's going to get you to have that level, that breakthrough conversation. Kathy, what I want to do is we're close to taking a break, so let's take a break. If our producer is ready, and then when we come back, if you have any questions for Stephen, it's an opportunity to ask questions. And I have a couple more questions for you. So would you stay with us, Kathy?
Absolutely.
So we'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I am your host, Coach Helix. With me, my wonderful co-host,
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium, and an amazing, fabulous guest and friend, Kathy Gallus, who is having an incredible conversation about grief, grace, and grit. And Kathy, when I think about, all three, right? I think about grief is giving yourself the permission to be exactly the way you are, wherever that is, upset, angry, happy, whatever that is. Give yourself permission. The grace is to learn to allow forgiveness for yourself and others in your heart. And the grit that I hear in your speaking is to have the courage to walk into those difficult conversations, whether yourself with yourself or with the person that you lost. Does that make sense, Kathy?
Yes, absolutely. And when you were just talking about grit, I didn't know if you were going to answer that for yourself, but I see it as perseverance. I mean,
Mm,
that is, and tenacity is also, what I consider one of my tenets. And
yes.
but I can say that those were challenged. Especially, over the last 3 months, even before my mom passed, there was just a lot going on. And there were times that, there were times where I was just like, I just don't know. I don't really know how this is going to go or if I can make it. I just didn't know. But sometimes even just saying, I don't know, and I give up. It's not like I'm giving up, like, I'm going to go off the face of the earth, but just kind of like I'm giving up control.
Mm,
And for me, that is the tenacity, is, giving up control, knowing that this is bigger than me. This situation for me was bigger than anything I've ever dealt with.
mm,
And, I had to have the tenacity and the courage to be able to say that. And
mm.
so, I'm on the other side, which I also knew I'd be on the other side, wiser and different, and I didn't know what that looked like. But that was kind of the end result of what I kept looking at, is that it, fortunately or unfortunately, this piece will end, because my mom would eventually transition, and I knew that because it was terminal. So
Mm-hmm.
there was kind of that piece, but the unknowing of when that would be was the most difficult, and was the most courageous, and where I had to be the most tenacious to keep myself in a place of power and an adult, and empowerment of others, even though I may not have thought they deserved it or whatever it was. There was just so much I had to bring from inside to really get to where I'm at now.
Kathy, I tell you, as I listen to you, I'm thinking one of my next shows is going to be about surrendering, because
Yes,
that's what I heard loud and clear, how to surrender, because what you resist, persist. And
absolutely.
surrendering is the way of just embracing, right? Letting go and just accepting, what is. Kathy, do you have any questions for Stephen before we get to the end of the show?
Wow. I was thinking about that over the break, and I was like, oh man, I didn't bring any questions. But I guess all I would say is just, Stephen, just who you are, and just spiritually and whatever, is my mom at peace and, like, finally enjoying herself up there?
Yeah, Kathy, I didn't. Elix just kind of prepped me because I didn't even know who was on the show. I think this morning. So, and I'm so glad I'm here with you. And as you've been speaking, yeah, I mean, I know I don't have a lot of time, but one of the big, it's not very common. I see this, but in your case with your mom. There's such forgiveness that she's actually feeling for herself too. Because one of the things she just kept telling me was, just tell my daughter that until I actually got into spirit and saw the blueprint of my life, I didn't, and I don't know if this will make sense, but she said I didn't know the effect, not just on Kathy, but just on people around me. I didn't know the effect I was leaving them with, because she said that there was a part of her that could be very, like, very harsh. And of course she's got a beautiful soul, but there was just I think it was maybe just the fear within herself. But I will tell
Yes.
you, to answer your question, yes, that she's completely working through a lot of things, but just at peace. And what I love is that all she cares about is how you ask about her, and all she cares about is how you are. That's all she cares about, is doing whatever she can from now until you two meet again to from her perspective, make up for what she feels like she didn't do in the physical world, if that makes any sense.
Oh my God. Wow. That I can't even tell you how spot on that is.
Yeah, and it's just, it comes from such a beautiful place, and it almost makes me feel too, Kathy, that your mom is almost, there's a piece of her that almost feels like, how did I birth this one? How did she get to this place that she's not only so proud of, but she is in awe of who you are, and just how you've got so much more to give this world, Kathy. She just said to me, just tell my daughter, don't get her nervous, but she's barely just touched the surface of what she needs to do here. I love it. I love that, Kathy.
Yeah, no, that's great. I would agree. So no, that's fine.
I love it. It's good. It's all good.
That's awesome, Stephen. I so appreciate that. That's really, I mean, I can't, everything made sense. So spot on.
Thank you, Kathy.
So you got two for the price of one, Kathy. I want to close with this. I love how you wrote your mom's obituary, because her essence really shined through. I read that Maddie loved driving her truck into town to shop at the Dollar Tree. I relate to that because my mom keeps me at the freaking Dollar Tree every week.
Right?
It's nonstop, and how she loved decorating her home for the holidays, which we, of course, Stephen and I can totally relate to. Was writing that obituary healing for you, Kathy?
It really was, and I in some ways I did too. I did one on Facebook that really wasn't an obituary. It was really just like my thoughts, and it was unbelievable. The feedback that I got, I wasn't expecting it, because it was just something that I didn't prep. I mean, I know that I'm a good writer, but I mean, it wasn't an obituary, but people just were able to really get my mom. And then I had, I actually, just to be fully transparent, I had written the obituary prior to my mom passing, but it was only a couple of weeks before, because I had kind of known, it's like being, not that I was physically there all the time, but being her main, caretaker and understanding what was going on. I knew that it was soon, and I didn't know how torn up I would be, and I knew that needed to be written, so I at least wrote the majority of it so that I would have it and not be brain scattered when I needed to actually write it. But it was because I could take my time writing it and actually being able to see my relationship with her as she was still alive, but then looking at how do I communicate this to folks that it is her and her essence after she passes in this obituary. So, it really was, and it was a calling, to be honest, because I knew that I had to do it, and I woke up one morning, and again, it was only a couple of weeks before she passed, and it was just screaming at me to write it. So I was like, okay, it's time, and it took me 30 minutes, and then I was just like, well, I'll go back to it if I need to update, and I honestly, really, all of the major aspects of it, I didn't even change. So it was really cool. It was really not an experience I thought that it would be like that, and so it was a healing, very spiritual, process, I guess you could say. That.
And Stephen, I don't know about you. I mean, you probably would know these certainly better than me, but I feel that Kathy's very connected to spirit also.
Oh, no question. Absolutely.
Like, it just feels that you really are connected. So just really keep paying attention. Kathy, to close our segment today, what would you say to somebody who finds themselves in that place where you found yourself grieving and angry? What would you say? What would you advise them to do to let go of that?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would say is, if you have a trusted person, whether that is just a friend, a partner, a therapist, whoever, a coworker, please talk to somebody, because so many times we just need to just talk and get it out of our head and out of our body. But if you don't feel that you have that person, and I know a number of people that, trust is like a really big deal, and that's a very intimate thing, is really just allowing yourself and giving yourself the grace to feel whatever you're feeling. And if you need to journal, if you need to meditate, if you need to like create a video on your phone like you're talking to someone, you don't have to share it. But any of those things to kind of get it outside of your body and outside of your head, so that, there is something out there, just accepting it or connecting to it rather than keeping it all inside in your body and suppressing it in a way. It just really does help to get it out. It's almost kind of like, a rabid dog or something. It's like once you release the gate, they go out, and a lot of times once they're out of the gate, they calm down a little bit. So that's kind of how I visualize it. I'm very lucky that I have people in my life that I trust and I can talk to, but I also do understand that there are people that don't have that. And so we really have to be our own therapist sometimes, and our own best friend. And in doing that, you just got to do whatever works for you. It could just be meditating, anything like that, but anything to get it outside of your body and to really just start loving yourself and accepting those feelings.
Kathy, having you here has been absolutely fabulous, insightful, and I know there's going to be plenty of Kathy Galas in upcoming episodes. So this is an open invitation for you, Kathy. Thank you for sharing your time, your attention with us so generously. And we both, Stephen and I, sent you lots of love.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you both. And again, thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kathy. And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope this has been insightful, inspiring to you. If you're dealing with grief, if it's a recent loss, or if it's something that you've been holding on for a long time. Stephen, how do people get a hold of you?
StephenTheMedium.com, and make sure you go to my website, StephenTheMedium.com/Halloween, to purchase tickets for my virtual Halloween October 31st event.
And if you're not following me, what the hell's wrong with you? You need to follow me at Coach Elex. And if you missed any episode, all of my radio shows are turned podcasts, and you can find them in Audible, Spotify, Apple, anywhere where podcasts are available. So with that said, have a fabulous week, wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.